There are certain places that I really hate to go. One of them is the doctor. Well, not as much. I mean, I have to go because otherwise I'm going to be uncomfortable and pain and everything else. But there is one place in my life that I just don't like going, and that is the airport. I'm in the airport wheelchair, and then, I'm hearing impaired, so then I have my head on a swivel. The person behind me, I can't hear them. They have accents usually. And then I have to figure out my flight, make sure we're going to the right gate. And then I'm looking for those boards that I can't read anyway. And then I get a headache, and then I'm going through security and trying to figure out what they're saying and following their directions. And by the time I get to my gate finally, I am a nervous wreck. And then I think, oh my God, if the plane or my plane moves to another gate, then what? Because I'm at the mercy of the person who's pushing me. Ugh. So I don't know, folks. This has to improve. I know some airports are opting for like scooters. You can hop on a scooter and it somehow is programmed to take you to the correct gate. Huh? I don't know what airports those are, but I will find out and see if those are European airports or those are U.S. I know some U.S. large airports are opting for that, so that would be very cool. But let's see what information I can scoop up at the end to put a note there what airports are testing scooters. And I think some are in Texas, or one is in Texas, maybe Dallas, but I'll check that out for you. Maybe LA. So it's the bigger airports that are testing, scooters, and then the person just they bring them the scooter, you sit on it, and away you go. But for right now, I have to depend on wheelchairs and the airport wheelchairs and the person pushing me and going through security and getting, side-eyed by other people because I get through faster. You know the story. So airports, by the time I am done and I'm at the other end, I have a headache, I'm exhausted, and everything else. It's not fun. Flying is not fun for anyone, but especially for us who have to, figure out where we're going, how we're going, and the person speaking behind me. Yes, 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 yes. So, one of the things that I rely on is my phone. And I just put in, the app for the airport and the airline, sorry. And I don't know why that's popping up on my, okay. So I have my next flight, which is not soon, but I have Air Canada because I have to go see my brother up in Canada at some point this year, 2024. And it's not too bad, So you can check in 24 hours prior, and then it will give you announcements on your phone, so that you don't have to look for those, boards, which they have, electronic announcements of what is canceled, what is moved, what is delayed, what is, so those boards, the digital boards, which half the time I can't find. But anyway, I have my neck like this, and then trying to look behind me because the person who's pushing the wheelchair is talking to me with a heavy Indian accent or whatever accent, and it's like, I can't understand you, but let me talk to you. so, so then they can answer yes or no, and then the conversation is more fluid. However, I ask them things like, how long you've been working here? Do you like it? What kind of jobs would you be seeking for in the future? All that kind of stuff. And so then we have a friendly conversation. Then we go through security. Then we get to the gate. and then they have to go to the front desk and let them know that I'm sitting over there. So, oh yes, it is a problem. So so one of the things I really rely on is my phone, because it's you, even though someone's pushing you and they should know where you need to go, I'm sure sometimes they have brought people to the wrong place, wrong gate. I don't know. But I was reading an article not long ago, and I'll find it. I don't have it like right here in front of me. Um, but in an airport in France, they just forgot one of their people in wheelchairs. And when they got to the gate, the airplane was closing the door, and the plane just flew off into the horizon. It's like, how does that happen? And the plane said they had everybody who was on the list. They had everybody in there, except for the person in the wheelchair. But they didn't see that. The airport says that it was the airline's fault, and the airline said it was the airport's fault, and then there's the person in the wheelchair who's in the middle. So what can I say about this? One of the things that we have to do as wheelchair users and people who are hearing impaired, or with any other disability, we really need to get there early. Just so they were registered early, and then, we are seen early and they know about us early, because it seems like to me in this article that this wheelchair user really got there really too close to the time of the plane leaving, and we can't afford that. Nobody can afford that, but the people with disabilities, we cannot afford that. We need to get there super early, and not like super, super early, but at least an hour, at least get to the gate an hour before your plane's going to leave. France, the airport in France is blaming somebody else, and everybody's blaming the person in the wheelchair, and just blame is going around like crazy in this article. I would say, whoa, time out. So, a lot of blame can go around. But for us, I would say minimal, you need to get there an hour before your plane's going to leave, for sure. And it might be boring, it might be painful for you to sit, an hour, without moving. I'm a person who is in pain, and so without being able to stretch out, in my recliner, I'm going to be in pain. I will. So, I put on a patch, or I ask for a patch before I leave, so that I can tolerate the sitting for such a long time. And, I think of taking a cushion with me. The one I have is made of gel, so I don't know if I can take it or not. But you have to think of all these things on how you're going to tolerate sitting in a chair that's not yours, and it's not made for you. It's probably larger, and it's difficult, really difficult. Sometimes it's just those, just the frame of the wheelchair. So you really got to think about how are you going to make yourself more comfortable. How are you going to make sure that you have the information? You have the information. Don't rely on others or the person who's pushing you, because they might not know. They might get distracted. They might say, excuse me, ma'am, but I'll be right back, and leave you somewhere, because I've heard that's happened too. I know that once they took me down to the luggage area and they left. I had no idea where they went. They might have said something to me. I have no idea. I'm deaf. They said something behind me and they were gone. I was like, oh, great. So I'm not a person who can just stand up and walk away. I'm not one of those. So, you have to think of what's going to work for you in the airport so you don't get the headache, so you don't end up in a nervous wreck, so you don't end up, just totally exhausted. But, I've tried to figure out, my little tricks here and there, and I definitely need to get something to eat or whatever. This trip that I'm making is not a long trip, thank goodness. So, I get a little something to eat, to drink when I'm on the plane. Before, for us, unfortunately, we have to stop drinking at least an hour, 2 hours prior to getting on the plane. I think a lot of us know that, because a lot of planes still do not have accessible bathrooms. So we have to do this whole finagling with our internal needs. Nobody else has to do that, but we do. So just in case you didn't know, but I think the audience that I have here knows that full well. But yes, I hate airports. I'm hoping that in the near future they'll make it a little bit easier. I think that the scooter idea is great because then you have some independence. The concern for me is, if somebody really doesn't know how to drive the scooter or handle the scooter, they could get themselves into an accident. So, that they don't have that capacity. But I think their family members or whatever would know that. So, I can handle a scooter. I've driven a scooter prior to using a wheelchair, so it does have a different feel when you're driving it. So, folks, that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. I hate airports. They're just very difficult. Just all the noise that's going on. My hearing situation doesn't click in. It doesn't, it's not helpful. The noise in the airport just drowns me. So I really try to figure out ways that I have the information rather than trust the person who's pushing me in the wheelchair. Because they might not know, they might walk away, they might, something might happen to them. So, and then what? At least, if I have a wheelchair that I can wheel myself, and something happens to the person who's helping me, at least I have the information with me. Not a problem. I can wheel myself and get to my gate. So we have to think about all these things, when we're going through the airport. I've heard, this person in France who just got left behind. I just don't know. All I can say is for anyone who has a disability, any disability with whatsoever, get there to the gate an hour prior. And I realize, holidays and all that kind of stuff, it's slow. Then come earlier so that you can get through and get to your gate an hour before your plane leaves, so that you don't get left behind, in which you see the airplane closing its doors and rolling away. We can't afford that. Nobody can afford it. So to miss a plane. So that's what I'm recommending. And I'm sure, and it says, when you purchase your ticket, to get there with plenty of time because of safety, the security issues, all that kind of stuff. It slows you down. So I don't know what tricks of the trade but I know that I will be posting this in 2 channels that I have, in World Wheelchair Warriors and also in the Hearing Loss Pathfinder is my other channel for hearing loss. So if you have hearing loss or you're in a wheelchair, this video will work for both. But truly, for if you have hearing loss and you're in a wheelchair, make sure you have the information, that you're as in charge as you can. I'm not quite in charge, when it comes to my hearing loss, because really the airport noises drown me. So I am completely deaf when I'm at the airport, and I have to just be very patient with that process. and just let people know I'm deaf, I can't hear you. So please gesture or write it down, and then we'll make sure the communication is clear. So I have cochlear implants, folks. So cochlear implants are great. They're awesome. But when you're surrounded by traffic and noise and all that kind of stuff, forget it. You're as good as deaf. So, and I'm aware of that. I don't fight it. So I just say write it down or speak to me in front of me so I can see you and follow the conversation. But if the person has a heavy accent, forget it. Write it down. So, and I've been thinking of getting like a small board or something so they can write it down and let me know what's going on. I'll be right back, or we're going to go through security now, or whatever it might be. It's just a small little board. So we'll see. We'll see what I do, or decide to do. Or I can use Live Transcribe, which is a perfect app that the person can speak into. If I can pick up their conversation well enough in the airport, Live Transcribe will pick up the speech of the other person and text it to me. So that's a perfect solution for that. So I didn't think of that the last time, which was a long time ago. But Live Transcribe, think of that. So so we have to work very hard to get through an airport, and I want everybody's experience to be the best or easiest as possible, so that we can get on our way. So please feel free to, put down your tricks of the trade on how you get through an airport without causing yourself a nervous breakdown or a headache or hives or whatever might happen to you at an airport. Now, airlines across the board are really stating that they will try their best to make sure that people with disabilities are more comfortable, and they make it easier for us to get from point A to point B. I'm hoping that happens. I know that there's some changes that United is trying to do because they got into trouble, and then Air Canada is trying to do their part because they got into big trouble. American Airlines, I'm not sure yet, but across the board you'll see little changes here and there, and I'm hoping 2024 is a better year for getting through an airport and getting to the airlines and the way we are treated, because usually we're just kind of, it's like, who cares? So I'm hoping, the last time I flew, which was a couple of years ago, it was in Alaska Airlines. And the stewardess came up to me and she was talking to me and she said, don't worry, we'll take care of you if anything happens. We have a plan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking of the trajectory, we take in usually for Alaska and Alaska Airlines for myself. And it's like, I said to the stewardess, I said, if we're going down, I would prefer that you help the people who are mobile because I've had a good life. So if the people are running that way, just go that way. Don't bother. So the gal was just really surprised at my answer and said, no, really, we'll take care of you. And I think there's certain things that the airlines really needs to practice. I would like to see, this is one of the things I would like to see. I would like to see for people who are really in wheelchairs and really can't walk, for them to have a, what do you call those, that you can put underneath the person in the wheelchair in case of an emergency, a sling. Yeah, a sling, transport sling that they can put underneath us, and then they don't have to struggle at the last minute trying to put a sling under us, so they can pick us up and take us out. I think that should be kind of like a requirement. I was also thinking of purchasing one and just, sitting on it. So that, the emergency happens, they just pick us up and they take us out with everybody else. So, it's just those details that that I think the airlines really needs to think of it. And if there's anybody from an airline who's listening to this, listen to that detail, because you're not going to have time to put a sling under us and to have a group of people pick us up and take us out. You're not. So somebody's going to have to scoop us up and carry us out, which is very hard. Some of us are hefty and weigh a lot. Some of us have special equipment on us. I don't have any special equipment. I just have a brace on one leg. But I have cochlear implants, but forget that. If we have to jump out of the plane or we have to, I don't care. So I prefer to save my life. But that day I just said, if we're going down, you're not going to have time. I felt like I was not ready for an emergency. And those are questions in a previous video I said to Air Canada, I said, remember this face. Remember this face when I come around. Because I know the stewardess might say, oh, you're fine. And make sure that you tell us if you need anything, it'll be interesting to see how they work with me in this upcoming flight in this 2024, but it's so important for the airlines to really care about us, because I've said this before, and for airports also to care about us, because I've said this before to them, we are consumers. We are consumers, and we also need to fly. There's just no way around it. If we're going to be able to connect with family, if we're going to be able to attend to emergencies, if we're going to, if some people have jobs and they're in wheelchairs and they need to fly. So it's time. I'm hoping that 2024 is the year, folks, that airports and airlines do better by us and help us out, so that we're not stressed. So I don't know how you all are doing with airports. All right, so just a few tips here and there. It seems like, in all the airports I looked at, they're saying the airlines is responsible for the wheelchair services. So that's really important to know, so that you don't get into a tit for tat. When you purchase your ticket, obviously there is a checkbox for wheelchairs. So, and to remind them 72 hours prior that you will be needing a wheelchair services. So it is the airlines that is responsible, not the airport. So that's kind of really important to know. Here in the United States, airlines are responsible for the wheelchair services. The other thing is, in a couple of airports, I saw that I think it was Austin, in Florida, they're beginning to use a program that's used in England, in which if you have a disability that's not visible, they will give you free of charge a lanyard with sunflowers on it. So that's really cool. And I do have a non-visible disability, which is my deafness. So that's interesting. I'm hoping it continues to spread and you can continue to use it in different airports. And I'm hoping that in the United States, all airports use that lanyard for non-visible disabilities, because then that alerts staff in the airport, oh, this person has another disability other than, the mobility problem. So that's happening in a couple of airports, not all of them yet. So that's very cool. So if you have a disability, low vision or hearing impairment or, a heart condition, those are not visible. So they will attend to that. So that's very cool, other than my mobility crap. So those lanyards are a very smart program, I think, and I want to thank the airports who are starting it. Miami, I saw it in, I think it was Austin. So a couple of airports are using it. So that's very cool. I know it started in England because I've been seeing it for quite a while. In England, actually, they use it for disabilities, period, and I think they have to purchase it though or request it, so then they can use it when they're traveling. And so the staff will know, okay, this person has some disabilities, and so then that, pushes them to, but that's in England. So here in the United States, they're starting the program. So I'm hoping that all airports will institute this, because I think that will alert the staff and help the person with the disabilities even more through the maze of the airports. In one airport, I saw that they have sections where you can plug in your mobility device, but I'm not sure how helpful that is, because usually, let me see here, because usually when we plug in our devices, they have to really plug in for at least 2 hours, if not more. So let me see if, so there's some interesting modalities and differences that they are trying to catch up with and do better by us. So I will find all these differences and little tidbits that are popping up in airports in the description box, so you can take a look at the different airports that are instituting slightly different support systems for those who have disabilities. So, and that's good. It helps us. Every little bit will help us. So I will put those links so you can read them. And there's some airports that have some cool things now, but they're airports I don't use. So that's okay. We'll just deal with the rest. It might be an airport that you use. So I will put the links down below so you can check and see if it's an airport that you use, and that will be helpful for you in your next flight and your next need to travel. All right. I know that Houston was going to start a program. It's not posted yet because it's going to be kind of like a brainchild of using scooters, so people can request a scooter and then they can drive around the airport all by themselves. So I think it's Houston, but it's not posted on the internet yet. So just so you know, it's just, they're just testing that and see how it goes. All right, folks, I am going to leave it at that. And, when I see something new, and I might make a section for, airport innovation or airline innovation, in which they are trying to help us a little bit more with our disabilities and getting through the airports, because it does become a nightmare and a tangled mess for us. So, all right, I will be quiet now, and you know what to do next with this, and I will see you in the next one.